America represented a lot of freedom and a lot of opportunities, a better government than the one I lived under in Hungary. It was unreachable at that time. We never thought we could ever really come to the United States because it was very difficult and it cost a lot of money. It was very expensive to come out on a ship. And during the war, they closed the possibilities to even get on the ship, even if you had a lot of money, because in 1939 was the last ship that came to America with some lucky people who had a lot of money to escape the Holocaust. We knew more American movie actors and actresses. Shirley Temple movie I saw when Shirley Temple was 4 years old, and I was about the same age. We knew Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers. We only went to see all the beautiful movies, and we loved. We really were naive because we thought the life is similar to what the movie showed, but when we came to America, we saw that we learned it fast that it wasn't like that. Oh, when we went to see The Wizard of Oz, I never forget it. It was like the wonder of wonders, and it was, I believe, the last American movie that was allowed to show in Hungary. And I love Judy Garland because I saw many movies with Mickey Rooney and Judy Garland. And we just, all the youth, all the young people just loved it. Snow White was such a delight, we couldn't get over it. In fact, the seven dwarf they used to have in the toy shop, they had the seven dwarf as dolls, little dolls, and Snow White and the Prince, but we couldn't afford to buy it. But I always looked through the glass in the toy shop, and I kind of put my whole face to the glass. I visualized playing with them when I was very young. In Hungary, there were two classes. You either were poor or you were very rich. We were not very rich, so that leaves us to be poor. There were no middle class. Middle class, it's only in the United States. In Europe, really, there are no middle class. It's only poor and the rich. And I noticed I had friends who were wealthier than we were, and I walked into their apartment, and the apartment building was absolutely outstanding and beautiful, luxurious. We lived in a two-bedroom apartment. It was clean, it was nice, but it was not luxurious. In those days, we even cooked with wood stove, and I had to get up every morning before I went to school and start the fire in the kitchen in the wood stove, and I knew how to do it ever since I was like 8 years old. And then I had to grind the coffee. They had coffee for even children can drink because it was caffeine free. And I ground the coffee and I filled the pot, and my mother made the rest of the breakfast. We had kerosene lamp. We had no electricity at the time. I'm talking about 70 years ago, when I was 10 years old. That's a long time ago. And the situation was very much the same in the United States because they did not advance as much as they did after the war. Education, also in Europe, education did not come by easily to people who could not afford to pay. It cost a lot of money. You could go to public school and graduate, and then if you wanted to go higher, your parents had to pay a tuition, very high tuition. You needed uniforms, and you needed all all sort of things that the school required, and they were very strict about those rules, and they wanted wealthy people to have education, not the poor people. We laughed a lot. We had a lot of humor in our immediate family. We knew how to, tell jokes. We were witty. My father was well read, and he was very witty. And relatively speaking, I had a happy childhood, even though I lacked a lot of material necessities. But the childhood was very pleasant, and there was no. My father didn't drink, he did gamble, but he didn't drink, he didn't hit my mother. My mother came from a very religious, Orthodox father and mother family. My grandmother gave birth to 13 children, but by the time I was born, there were only 3 left. My mother was a beautiful woman. She didn't look Semitic. She looked blue eyes. She had light blondish brown hair, and she had a very beautiful face and a very nice figure. She, as I remember when I was little, she really looked beautiful. She had a hard life with my father. As I mentioned before, he was a gambler. And my mother was not used to that kind of life because she lost her father when she was 14 years old. And her father was religious. They, of course, kept the Sabbath. Friday night was a very important night with candle lighting and bringing in the Sabbath. And my father never did that, even though he believed in Judaism and he believed in God, but he was not a religious person. And that bothered my mother when he used to bring in ham in the house to eat. That killed my mother. But how she was not a well-read person. She was a businesswoman. She had the brain. If she would have come to the United States when she was like 15, 16, 17 years old, she would be a very wealthy woman because she had the mind of a businesswoman. She was very diligent. Whatever she had to do, she was very diligent. But when it comes to books and art and appreciation of good music, that came from my father. I was a middle child. I had a younger sister and a much older brother. A middle child wants more attention than she's getting. And I had a Cinderella complex, which means I always felt that I'm being taken advantage of, and I'm the one who is suffering and getting punishment from the father while they never punish my sister. Things like that. It's a Cinderella complex, you call it. When I became a little bit older, I was very upright, like I still am. I wouldn't take anything that did not belong to me. I was very honest, and I wouldn't say I was always truthful. There was always some white lies that I said. But I had a good heart, and I always sort of watched